From now on, we will study about the application of a modal verb in an interrogative clause with a modal verb. The speaker arranges the modal verb to start the interrogative clause to let the listeners know the information that the clause conveys the interrogative intention of the speaker with the very first word, the modal verb. The speaker conveys the interrogative clause that the modal verb is applied with the purpose to ask the listeners to clarify whether the intention of the speaker and the opinion of the listeners are accorded or not to the listeners. The definition of the verb described by the modal verb is asked to the listeners about figuring out whether the description by the phrase of the modal verb and the verb delivers is accorded with the response, with the will of the listeners or not. According to the response, yes or no, from the listeners to clarify the agreement or the disagreement, the modal verb to emphasize or assume the definition of the verb that the speaker applies in the interrogative clause practices the original role. This explanation tells us that the affirmation of the listeners is the basis that the intent of the speaker to emphasize or assume the definition of the verb becomes clarified. With the response of the listeners, the intent of the speaker is clarified into an emphasis for the definition of the verb or the fact that the speaker assumes the experience, condition, or action described by the definition of the verb. There is an interrogative clause that starts with the modal verb do. Do you imagine the better world? The speaker starts to state this clause with the modal verb do. Except that the speaker states the imperative clause whose subject the listeners are abbreviated. The listeners can understand that this clause includes a general verb. The listeners also understand that the tense of this clause is revealed as the present tense from the form of the modal verb do. The listeners also can understand that the the information about the subject who participates in the conversation with as the speaker. The listeners also can think of the possibility that the subjects are more than 2 or 0, and the subject do not participate in the conversation indicated by the personal pronoun they, or the subject or the subject including the speaker or the listeners, so that the speakers can be indicated by the personal pronoun we or you. This information can be obtained as soon as hearing the modal verb, the first word of the interrogative clause, do. The clause is stated in the present tense as the second role of the verb. The number of the subject is more than 2, and the subjects participate in the conversation with the speaker, and the verb of this clause is classified as the general verb. Because the clause that a be verb is applied which is transformed into an interrogative clause start with the be verb directly, because the be verb includes the trait as an adverb, as the modal verb is classified as an adverb. Especially the be verb includes the trait as a preposition as, from the perspective that the basic definition of the be verb to describe the existence of the subject can be deepened to reveal the equivalence, existence, the definition of the subject, to define the subject with the as the object of the preposition as. The be verb can be differentiated into the general verb exist and the preposition as. In this class, the general verb imagine is applied, so the modal verb do is applied to start the interrogative clause. The fact that our Lord, the One, tells us the answer of every statement, but we want to hear from the listeners, because if we cannot hear the spiritual voice of the One provides us the second chance to hear from Jesus Christ, our Lord, in the counterpart. So we can understand that every interrogative clause is stated in the emphasis from our Lord, from the perspective that our Lord tells us the answer for our question spiritually. Do you imagine the better world? The first clause is this. The speaker clarifies whether the listeners agree on the interrogative intention that the condition of the present occurs with the condition described by the transitive verb imagine. According to the response of the listeners, the description that the condition of the listeners, who are the subject, is the same as the condition described by the transitive verb imagine. Whose definition is emphasized by the modal verb do is clarified to be true or not.